off a big win over the weekend. Coach, you look a little more rested than the last time I talked to you after the trip to Vegas. How are you?
A little bit more rested, no doubt. That was a tough trip, and quite frankly, I was proud of our guys the way they fought through the week, and they were tired. And I think you could probably say that the times we weren't at our best, but Nichols State, a perennial conference champ came in. It was their biggest game that they were going to play, and they played great. But I'm proud of the way we played. It wasn't, our A game, but our guys did some really good things. Garrett Nussmeier threw 6 touchdown passes and got a victory. And now we get to go on the road against, an SEC opponent that is playing pretty good.
Yeah, they are. We happened to have been up in Lexington over the weekend while you were getting ready for Nichols, and everybody was surprised. And I know that your job isn't a commentator; it's a coach. But you prepare for a team the same way. But I'm curious what you saw on tape from watching South Carolina against Kentucky.
Well, Sellers, brings a dimension, that is different than what they've had, right? I mean, Spencer Rattler last year was, throw the football and obviously try to score from a different offensive structure. This is about, defending a big physical quarterback. It reminds me of the Richardson kid at Florida. He's got a live arm. He can throw it 70 yards in the air. And so now you're focusing on a different offensive structure relative to what he's going to bring. And, we just, faced a kind of a similar offense. So there'll be a familiar look to it. But again, these are difficult offenses. They're hard to get off the field. You're going to have to be gap conscious. You got to get him down on the field. He's 230 plus pounds. And their calling card has always been a very salty defense, and they continue to have that as well.
Talking to Coach Brian Kelly here on this Monday as LSU heads to South Carolina, a huge game, noon Eastern time on ABC. Coach, you mentioned Garrett. Let's go back to him for a second because we expected big things out of him. You know him better than we do, but how would you describe what you've seen from your quarterback in 2 weeks?
Well, I would say more than anything else, the game is not too big for him, no matter what the circumstances are, whether it's USC or Nichols State. He's in complete control of the game itself. And look, I mean, it's early in the season. He's thrown 8 touchdown passes. He's on track to throw 45 to 50, and we probably going to need them all. But he has a calmness about him, a confidence about him, and he has a stable of receivers and a tight end that really is starting to put this identity together offensively that we have a really good offensive line, and everyone was expecting us to play just bully ball and knock people off the line of scrimmage. And maybe that'll be the case. But right now, through the first couple of weeks, Paul, everybody's loaded the box and doesn't want us to run the football. Well, you know what? Garrett's going to throw the football a lot then. If that continues to be the case, we're going to do what defenses force us to do. And right now, Garrett's throwing the ball very, very well.
And you mentioned running the ball, and everyone around the country hated to see the terrible injury to John Emery, and I know no one more than you and your staff and your team. But how do you replicate that? And it sounds cruel to move on, but that's part of football.
It is, John, I think it's always about how you handle adversity. And unfortunately, he's had this before. And, I think he's at a place in his life now that he knows that he can do things outside of football. I think that's what the trap is here, Paul, is that many of these young men sometimes didn't know that they could do things outside of just football. And that's a shame, right? I mean, I think building an identity outside of football with these young men is so crucial when you come into football programs. And we've done that. And John knows that he has a life outside of football. And so that's why he's able to Is he disappointed? Absolutely. We're crushed for him, but he knows he has a life outside of football, and now he's going to be working towards that.
Coach, we in the media business play the playoff game, although it's a little bit early, as you know. But I
Yes.
was somewhat jarring to see the AP poll come out, and I think it's 6 out of the first 7 are from the league. I realize that's not a surprise to you, but does it? At least it backs up what you and your 15 other colleagues have to deal with every week, doesn't it?
Yeah, the SEC is loaded again. And look, I think we knew right from the very beginning that this year, more than maybe any that I can remember, that there wasn't just one team. There are some great teams in this league. There's no doubt. I mean, you still got to go through Georgia, but Texas is shown itself obviously now as a new member. Alabama is going to be formidable, but Ole Miss and what they're doing early on. Tennessee's had a great win. This is the depth of this league is what is making this the best league in the country. And so each week is going to be a slugfest. And now look, I mean, little old LSU and little old South Carolina are playing, and nobody will care about it. But these are two pretty good teams too. So we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
Well, they may not care about it, but somebody at the company I work for decided to send the game day bus there, so we will
Yeah,
get
I guess it's
we'll get some
it
attention
wasn't that
Saturday
big.
morning.
No doubt, no doubt.
And you come into this game playing a team off a big win. There's so much psychology involved, but I am just curious, just kind of circling back to where we began on South Carolina. You don't see this game a lot. It's an occasional game. Just going to a place. I know. Have you been? Have you been there as a coach? I'm trying to remember.
I have not.
Okay, so
Never been. And for me, that's been part of the lure for me in terms of coming down to the SEC. Last year, my first time at Missouri, first time at Mississippi State, going on the road to some of these venues has been, amazing, exciting, but they're very difficult. Not only the team, but the environment to play. You get cowbells, and you go to Missouri and it's homecoming, and now you got really good football teams as well. So, the most important thing is when you go on the road, the preparation is one thing, but when it comes to the performance of your football team is the ability to really make sure that you're not distracted, because the distractions are real, right? It's game day. It's it's going to be an incredible crowd. Can you lock in and focus for 6 seconds? One play at a time. And that's the team that is able to do that the best over, 3 hours is usually the team that comes out victor.
finally, Coach, and the time of this game, there are obviously windows. There's the noon, there's the afternoon, the evening. Does that affect anything other than just when you eat in reference to getting ready for the game?
Yeah, I mean, it changes, quite a bit. I mean, your routine, like for this one, we'll have to get them up probably, 2 hours earlier than they're normally getting up. We'll get to the stadium because of traffic concerns relative to contraflow traffic. We've got to get to the stadium about 2 hours and 30 minutes before the game, which is about 30 minutes earlier. So there's a change in your routine across the board when you play noon games on the road. And in this one in particular, we'll have to be there at 9:40 a.m. And, these are college students. They're 9:40. They don't do a lot other than go to class before 9:40.
It sounded normal to adults, but you're right. I keep forgetting, as you can never forget, they're 17 to 22-year-old. Coach, thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you on these Mondays.
Take care, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you on. Coach Brian Kelly.